what trends are you seeing now in terms of AI talent demand, and how are your clients going to be using these AI skilled engineers in their business? You just mentioned like the tool itself, you want to set it up and train, but there's also this new skill set of the AI powered software engineer. So what are you seeing in terms of trends for how businesses are hiring these types of individuals?
Yeah, the strongest trend that we're seeing is one hypothesis that Jacqueline and I had at the beginning of this is that we're going to see an explosion of maybe demand for specialized teammates that can fine-tune software in LLMs or deploy them and that's all they do. And we do see some of that, but actually what we've seen more and more in our pipeline is that people are looking for a regular old software engineer, let's say a Node backend developer who not only can deploy software and features to customers, but now also knows how to use the AI tools, right? So we were expecting a bit of a divergence, and there's still room for specialization, but much we started with back-end developers and front-end developers. And then over time, through necessity and efficiency, we saw the rise of the full stack developer that can switch between both. Maybe they're not an expert in either one, but they're that Swiss Army tool, that utility tool that you need on your belts to fix things as you go. We're seeing a demand for that, for backend engineers who just know how to interact with the latest APIs, the models, do some simple tuning, know how to integrate those things with the traditional database systems. Because what you find is a large language model is not a search engine. It's not a text search engine. So you need to know how to marry a text search engine, the traditional Elasticsearch and MySQL stuff, and augment it with the new language model stuff. And yeah, I was pretty surprised by that. So we're seeing it's not enough to just be a backend developer anymore. Now you need to be a backend developer who knows how to interact with those tools. The big hypothesis that we're seeing for our when developers join at Howdy, we get them set up with internal curriculum, philosophies, and things like that to keep developers in the Latin American community up to date with the latest trends and so on for joining teams on the US side. Often our engineers are even more ahead of the curve than the US engineers. And one of the things that we hammer home is that if you're a backend developer, there's no getting around knowing how to use GitHub. That's where you collaborate, it's where you put your code, it's where you keep it safe. Very, very similarly, there's no getting around knowing how to interact, tune, deploy, and improve these models. Like it's just going to be the bread and butter for any software engineer.
And so the companies that are going and looking for these types of roles to fill, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you're seeing when they're looking to hire out talent, whether it's in the US or Latin America or anywhere, hiring remote teams? How is Howdy helping them avoid these mistakes before they even happen?
Yeah. So the big mistakes I think that people get is the not really thinking through exactly how they want to use these AI tools, right? Thinking through a clear strategy for where they want to deploy them, the status of what their work is. So what we do to help companies think through this is I can speak from it from a software engineering point of view, right? So when they come on board, we have to know a little bit about their business, have to know a little bit about the kinds of objectives that they're trying to do if they're trying to deploy AI, the existence of their existing infrastructure and how that works, and make sure that it's clear to them that it's not, number one, they have to have all the things that we talked about, right? Like the right environments, the right context, the right documentation. Number two, it's got to be very clear the very specific problem that they want to use it to for. Oftentimes they come to us describing, we want to automate this whole workflow. But that's not enough to just say we want to automate this whole workflow. When you really unpack it, you figure out that like kind of the smallest piece there that provides a lot of value, the critical piece or the critical
Mhm.
path of that work flow. And oftentimes, like in our case, that ends up being like creating a synopsis for a software engineer. That is a critical piece among a bigger workflow. But if we tried to solve let's automate that whole workflow from the beginning without really thinking about where the value is and where the bottleneck is, then it would have been just this huge, expensive, clumsy system that's trying to reason about poor results that just never work. But because we're surgical about where it does apply, then with the knowledge about people's or teams' existing systems, we can then, through a little bit of a consulting and question
Mhm.
answering, we can actually recommend the kinds of software engineers, the kinds of skills that they might need. They may just need a backend engineer with AI experience, or you might need an actual like AI specialist. And those are all things that we can help teams reason through.